warning. At least we got one this time.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Professor Kelsey's Book Club. I am Professor Kelsey. This is the book of the book club. All this and more. Peg Shepherd, selected by main character number 4.
Hi,
Who
that's
wants
me.
to do a summary?
Oh, I'll do the summaries. It was my choice.
Okay.
Oh,
But
go.
I gotta say, Justin, your whole vibe is like very romantic, very.
Yeah, I have to say.
I may be multiple drinks in this evening, so
Um,
I'm here looking to change my present, my past, my future,
at first, I was like, "What are you talking?"
Well, Justin, you could have all this.
and more.
That's one of my biggest gripes. But we can go.
Okay,
Go.
let
So-
Justin explain
Go
what
with
the
the
book is
summary.
about first.
Picture yourself 45 years old, divorced, with a semi adult child, and everything in your life has just gone wrong. Not totally wrong, where there are still good things, but you sit there and you think, what if I just did this one thing differently? Enter all this and more. A reality show where you can have 10 episodes to change your entire reality. What if you finished your law degree? What if you went home with that one night stand? What if you continued a relationship with your high school sweetheart?
What if you lived in Iceland?
What if?
What a twist.
And that's the basis of what all this and more is about. It's a reality show that will pick one contestant out of billions of people. Even though they say millions, it would be billions. And the entire world gets to watch as you try different avenues of what if in your life. And you try and find the one that works best for you without these weird things kind of happening in the backgrounds. Question mark? And that's where we find our main character, Marsh, who's a 45-year-old mother. And she's recently divorced. Her husband cheated on her and left her. And she has a daughter who she has a good relationship with. But she just feels like, what if there was something else for me? What if? And that's the basis of this book. What if? And that's what this book is about. And it is a choose your own adventure book, which the last time we were here, I just took a wild stab in the dark at because I wasn't 100% positive this was a choose your own adventure. The cover made it seem like it, but they don't really make choose your own adventure books for adults.
It's true.
And yeah, we're gonna go on a trip with Marsh and see where she ends up at the end of these 10 episodes.
We're going into the bubble. with
We're going
Marsh.
into the quantum bubble,
Yeah,
which seems problematic in so many ways.
it does.
And that's our book. That's our book.
Mhm.
Kelsey, what did you rate this book?
No, you guys have to answer first. I never answer first.
I literally haven't decided yet.
Okay, well, you have to decide right now.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bobby. Why don't you pick first?
So I think it's like a 3.5 for me. I would probably on Goodreads rate it a 4 because I liked it three like between 3.5 and 4, like 3.675 or something. It's definitely not rated a 3 and it's a 3.5. It's more rated a 4, but it's really a 3.5. For me. Yeah. So that's how I would rate it.
I think I would agree with you. I was struggling with where I would put this. I think I would also rate it on Goodreads. I would probably rate it a 3, but I like it a little bit better than that.
Okay.
I think the book has some issues. I think the writing has some issues, and yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Kelsey's gonna rate this book. Wait. Kelsey's gonna rate this book a 2. Yeah.
I'm trying to think the last time Kelsey rated a book on this show well.
Nestlings.
Yeah, thank
Maybe.
you.
No, not even Nestlings. It was probably Last Night in Montreal was probably the last time you really rated a book highly.
Okay, you know what? You guys talk for 2 seconds, and I'll tell you.
That's what I
Yeah,
think.
Bride was bad.
Yeah, Pride was bad. This is true.
Bride was also 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think that might be the consensus book we've ever had.
Mhm,
Yeah.
Yes.
No, the last one was Nestlings, and I gave it a 3.5. It's true.
Okay.
Wait, what did you rate
Overstory.
the Overstory?
3.
3.
Oh
yeah.
Jesus, your
Yeah.
reviews
I
are.
really didn't like it.
He's
People
got a
agree
new
with
book
me.
out.
He does. It
You
just
should
came
read
out.
that.
Yeah.
Richard
I know.
Towers.
I saw that. Yeah, Last Night in Montreal, I gave a 4.
Yeah, that was the last one.
All right, that was the last one that you really liked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to be a bit more. But in my defense, like even my picks have been lacking. But Nestlings, in hindsight, I would give it a 4.
Coming around to my point.
Yeah.
I don't. What
But-
did I don't remember what I rated.
I think you gave it a
Nestlings.
3, Justin. I think you
Yeah, I
gave
think
it
I
a
think
3.
we were in agreement.
I think you gave it a 3. Yeah, you two like
But,
a
like,
little less than I did.
What I remember that I liked, I don't remember what I hated. See, with this book, there's a lot that I didn't like. There's a lot that I liked. Like I don't know how. Anyways, I don't know how you guys read it. We could talk about that first. The format
Yeah.
of the book is a choose your own adventure if you are a fun person.
Yeah.
I have an incessant need to read everything in a book. So for me, this was not a joyous time.
Kelsey, so when it got to a like let's say go to page 76 or go to page 312,
I just flipped.
you flip to the next page?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they tell you that you could flip to the next page or go to page, let's say 376.
I think for the entire book until you get to the last part where it starts being like the definition of a butterfly, chrysalids, like until you get to that part, everything makes sense if you read it that way. Like if you read it just page after page after page, everything makes sense.
I also read it that way.
Yeah. Once you get to the endings, you have to kind of remember like where you are or just be along for the ride. And I was just along for the ride. I was like, what? Listen, whatever happens.
I think it's hilarious. This book is like, look, like we're this is a really unconventional format. You can bounce all around. The whole point of this book is that it has this structure, and the both of you are like, no, I'm just gonna read it like a normal book.
So the reason I'll say that is, and this is one of my qualms with the book.
So many opportunities, and we're like, no.
I think maybe let's say there were 4 opportunities before the end of the book where you really have to start like you're like, okay, I have to make a choice here. I can't just flip to the next page. I don't think that Shepard really laid the breadcrumbs to want to explore those other options.
I agree with you.
Because like a lot of it, I'm just gonna, let's just say in the first choice, she has a choice with going with this new flame or trying to repair the relationship with the guy who just recently cheated on her. And it's like, there's not really enough in the story to make me want to try and repair the relationship with the guy who just cheated on me. There's not enough breadcrumbs leading me that way. And for the first couple of choices, it felt like that, where it was just like, no, like this choice just feels like you're giving me a choice to give me a choice that feels kind of out of left field, that it's not the tone of the story.
Okay. I want to throw up a little bit of disagreement on this because
Well, you read it the way it was intended. So
yeah, I mean, I did it. So, but I think it's great because I think we got different perspectives, right, on how the book lays out and how it works, right? I think it's also this is also I think partly a perspective thing, right? Which is that I'm not reading the book thinking like what choice laid out do I want to make, right? I'm thinking like what choice might Marsh want to make, right? Which is like the first choice as an example, right? She has a daughter, right, with this guy. Things were pretty good until like this, they were a little stale, but and this one moment is really the thing that broke it, right? For me, I'm like, well, she seems like the kind of person who would like want to do everything she could to keep her family together. So let me see what happens if I go try to get her to get back with Dylan, right? And if that doesn't work out, she can do another choice, obviously, because that's the whole point of this book and this and the show they're setting up. So that's kind of how I went about it. I tried.
How long did it take you to read?
Not that long, really.
Okay.
I started this book on Sunday and finished it on Tuesday.
Yeah, but
Tuesday?
we read it like consecutively. So it's
Yeah.
like for 400 pages, like that makes sense. But if you're going back and forth, I'm curious.
Yeah. So here what I say is what I'll say is my actual gripe with the system is that being someone who bounced around a little bit, um, and then tried to kind of do the thing where I was like, okay, well, let's go back to that choice and then see, and splinter off.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, the only difference was like one little chapter in between to what seemed like fixed points in the story you had to go after, right? Which was like, there's that scene. I don't know. You guys might. Did you guys even get to this scene? I don't know if you guys did this because you didn't go what I went to. There's a scene where she's trying to make things right with Dylan and decides to have like this. Hello, Megs. Have this. Go along with this threesome idea that he had when they were like still married.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got to that part.
So right,
Yeah.
and then Ren shows up, right? And is like, and she's like, what the hell's going on? And then there's like a choice you have to make, right? Do you keep going with, do you just go ahead with the threesome, or do you skip ahead to this other thing,
Mhm.
or whatever? And when I skipped ahead, right, did another chapter, and then it kind of just brings you back to like whatever the other choice would have been if you had just gone through. Like it just skips over basically the chapter where she tries to do the threesome with Ren and Dylan and whoever the other woman is or whatever, the foursome or whatever.
Mhm.
You just come back to the chapter after that, and it doesn't, and it's in that moment where you read it where you realize the lead-ins to each of these chapters that come after a choice that could go one or the other ways are very vague, right? Are very vague on how she sets up how you're coming back into the story, because she can't predict which choice you have made,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And she can only write so much. It's not a video game, right? It's a book, so there's
Mhm.
not a programming thing where like, the book can adaptively change right
Yeah.
as you go through it. So there was even a couple lines where they could have been taken either way, but they were definitely more critical path focused. Like if you had just gone through, and that was where I was like, okay, like, do I really even want to do the bouncing around thing anymore? Because it doesn't really seem like I'm getting anything extra out of it by doing it this way. And then once you get to the midpoint of the book, there really isn't another choice until the end of the book, basically. Yeah. And they tell you that there's a narrative reason, right? Once you're in the second half of the season, a lot more stuff is locked in and you can't go back. Mm-hmm. And part of me is like, is this really how she decided she wanted to write it from the outset? Or did she just realize halfway through, this is untenable for me to try to write all these different scenarios and keep them going throughout the second half of the story, right?
I think it's both. I think it would be really, so as someone who works in video games, it's very hard sometimes to be able to predict, especially like my field, to be able to predict a player's choices, right? So you could do whatever you want in the world. You think it's the most linear thing in the world, and someone will divert a different way or understand something a different way. And I think here, like, she had to have some sort of like concrete thing to still tell a major chunk of the story that you would skip if you are just someone who reads happy endings, for example.
Right.
You don't get and we'll get there like when we talk about the later half of the book, but you wouldn't be able to get what I would consider very stalkerish and weird behavior from a certain character in the later half of the book if you just choose the happiness. And by locking it in, at least she's covered like the people who wanted to end at this point, wanted to marry Ren, wanted to do all these things. Well, they'll have the happy ending kind of thing. And then now we can move into like the more like convoluted stuff, and I think she did a good job at like reflecting that in the story as well, because obviously the bubble is starting to like combust or self implode, and that's due to the fact that so many changes are happening. So we have to at least keep some things consistent, because just mathematically you would be going, the possibilities would be endless. Right. And I don't know if I can hear Talia and Marsh be like, and you can have all this and more at the end of every chapter if there were even 100 more chapters.
Well, they say it like 10 times because there's 10 episodes.
It's not 10 times.
I mean, they redo some of the episodes, but
Oh my god, it was so much.
it's not really that
It's
much.
really not
It's
that
really
much,
not that much.
Kelsey.
Guys, it was so much.
It's a sign-off line for a TV show.
It's like one
Oh.
paragraph of
Yeah.
you could have all this and
I wish I
more
counted.
in a
I
book.
wish I counted because you guys are gaslighting me, and I'm telling you, it was a lot.
Kelsey's like, listen, I listened to this book at 7 times
I
speed.
didn't listen to it. I read it with my own eyeballs, so that's how I know.
Wow. I'm glad we picked it just for that.
Because honestly, if I would have listened to it on audio, I probably wouldn't have realized how often they said it.
So my thing about the choices, right, is if she was gonna cut it off kind of right in the middle, like she did, because she does have a lot of, she then has to really get into the plot and like what is actually happening, and you can't have people skipping around so much if you really want to focus on this more convoluted stuff, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wish there were more choices in the first half of the book, and what I really wish is that there was one or two of them that were like Choose Your Own Adventure books, where it was like, oh no, you got to like an ending that you didn't want.
Yes.
Right? Like it's like like the bubble burst or she died or whatever, like go back.
Yeah,
and then,
I do
and then
agree.
they could have narratively been like, Talia been like, well, that isn't how it's gonna work, and then like brought us back.
Go back to page 1.
Yeah, exactly, or whatever. I wish there had been some of that just for the fun of it, because I feel like the book often, I'm not sure what tone the book is giving me a lot of the time, which I think was my main hang up with the book, really, was that I was like, is this satire or am I supposed to be taking this seriously? Like there's just a lot it skips back and forth a little bit too much for me to really grab on to one of the two tones that I feel like it's putting out there. Yeah.
Even I would say that tied to that is how passive Marsh is as a main character. So because we're deciding her choices, she becomes a sort of passive character. And I don't feel like she really took, at least in the first half, I don't feel like
the
she
first half, I
Yes.
agree. Yeah.
really
I-
took any decisions. Like she was
Mhm.
like, whatever.
Mhm.
And,
I
like,
have major
get it,
problems with the way Marsh is characterized
but
in the
same.
second half of this
I
book.
I feel the same. Like I really didn't enjoy her perspective because she's such a passive character for the audience to root for, at the same time like decide her fate, at the same time like allow all these things to happen to her. Like I feel like there was never, like, for example, like I think one of the main like annoying moments was like the acting portion, or the gambling portion, for example. It's like, where did she say she enjoyed doing these things? And she's like, yeah, this is the life for me, and then it's only because like she saw the word chrysalis that she's like, I can't live this life. Like, what, you were loving it.
Well, she had like a whole acting thing in that story she told about getting booed off stage at the talent show or whatever.
Oh, please.
I mean, that's what
I've also been in a talent show.
Okay,
Doesn't
but-
mean I wanted to act.
I humble brags all over the place here, apparently.
I was also in the talent show.
Justin, you're saying you had what was your problems with the characterization?
So, you're reading this book and you're like, okay, like I'm on Marsh's side. Like, like I want the best thing for Marsh. And then like kind of like you take like 2 steps back from this book and you're like, you're kind of acting like an asshole. Like that's how I felt about her. And I think one of the endings of the book rings like really true with the way that she kind of was acting towards, I'll say, the middle to end of the book. It was when she was just like, it was basically when they got to Iceland, right? Iceland is a really, I think, like touchstone part of this book.
Well, it's
because
the season finale, isn't it?
Is the mid-season one?
Or it's like
Mm,
right before, because
think it's-
she wants to marry. He wants to marry.
That's
it's like
right.
episode
It's
5
right
or
after the mid-season special. So the
Okay.
mid-season-
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So the problem that I had was she takes Ren at that point and she decides like in the beginning when you're starting to fuck with reality, you're like, well, like what if I just finished my law degree? Like what if I just did this? What if I just did this? And from that point forward in Iceland, she's like, she starts messing with Ren. Like, can you make him a little more masculine? Can you make him a little bit more this? Can you make him a little bit more this? But not so much. Let's pull this back. I don't like the fact that he smokes. And she's starting to not mess with just her reality. She's starting to mess with everybody else's reality, especially Ren's. And we'll get to the Ren part of this. But I started looking at that being like, you're just taking this person and completely changing who they are from the inside out. You're not really changing anything about yourself anymore. And that irks me in a way.
I agree with you. I think that's intentional. I do think that, this is the other thing that my thing about the tone of the book, which I think is a problem, is that I think a little bit the book is trying to say, obviously this is a really extreme situation, right? But trying to say, like, people who are like this, people who will go on a show like this, like, there's something about their personality that's a little bit broken, right? And she is being selfish, right? Because even from the beginning, even when she's still changing everybody's life, even from the beginning, and she gets really, really intense about it and specific about it in the second half of the book. By the end of the book, I was like, I really hope, and she brings this up at the end, which is why I think she is like, she's conscious of this in her writing. This idea that, well, now I realize that really the life I had was the right life, because even though it's not perfect, it's reality. And they kind of bring that up as like as a concept at the end of the book to just scoff at a little bit. And I think that is sort of the thing with her, is that you like her because the book tells you to like her at the beginning because she seems meek, but once she starts getting any power, you start to realize that she isn't this angelic, virtuous person. She's just a person who wants her life to be better, and she really, at a certain point, other than her daughter, is willing to mess with anybody in order to get there, I think.
I don't know if we should get into it yet, but I definitely want to know what endings you guys chose.
I'll tell you that we can talk about. I guess we can talk about it. The first ending I chose was I ended up reading them all after I chose one, because I was like, I just want to know what they all are.
I only read 2 of 3 because the one of them I was just like, no, like I'm not doing this.
I chose like the let's go back to square one ending as like my canon ending or whatever. Let's just like go back to regular life ending. And then I read the other one. So that's what I chose. What did you end up choosing, Justin?
I chose that one as well because it felt like what she should choose.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I read the what if I just stay in here longer ending, and I felt that was more apropos for the character I was reading.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like the Ren ending is the most apropos for the character, because if you didn't read that one, right, Justin?
No, I like because like spoilers. Ren has been like behind everything that's been going wrong and is basically the world's worst stalker in the in history.
Yeah.
And I felt like no, like I can't choose that. Like I don't feel like the character would choose this if they had any sort of self-respect at all. But the one where you stay, where she's like, well, what if I just keep toying with this a little bit? Now that ending I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, that ending is cool. That ending is very cool. Everyone starts looking like her and talking like her, and the whole.
And then she starts reaching. Yeah, the whole world starts because the bubble is like completely shattering and it's taking over the world. That's a good ending. That's a Black Mirror ending.
It is a very Black Mirror ending. Yes, absolutely. So the second ending with the Ren ending, she's like, "Oh, everything is perfect," and then she just starts like destroying stuff in her life on purpose. Because nothing is wrong and nothing ever goes wrong. So she's bored and she's just sort of like, I just want to blow everything up. So she starts like breaking stuff. And then she stops like, working, like at work, she stops like, she starts mouthing off the clients, all this kind of stuff. And starts like trying to destroy her life until Ren is like, why are you doing this? So that's also kind of interesting ending. I like that none of the endings are happy, really. None of them, they're all particularly like, this person's broken now. Like there's just nothing she can do at this point in her life. She wasn't happy with what she had. And so now she is doomed to sort of be in this loop of no matter what, always being disappointed with where she is.
See, the thing is, I read that first ending where she goes back with what's his name? Her
Dylan.
husband's Dylan.
Dylan.
Excuse me.
Dylan.
She goes back with Dylan, and it's just like, well, hey, like, let's just work through this. And it's just like, well, this is
But it kind of
what it
makes
is.
sense though, because like to me, I think that's the most like realistic ending.
I agree.
Because Dylan, at least she knows is real.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that happened with Dylan happened inside of the bubble because of Ren.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Marsh can't know that outside of Ren's influence, Dylan would have cheated on her, right? So
Right.
I think realistically, like I'm thinking like, oh, okay, like let's say it was me and Carmen there, and like I had a weird, crazy like stalker from high school. Like, am I gonna go with a weird, crazy stalker from high school who like possibly made my husband cheat on me? I don't
And
know.
completely distorted your entire reality.
Yeah. So it's
No,
like
no dick is that good. I'm sorry.
But of the people in her life, she's the most like Ren. Because she did the same thing to everybody else. She manipulated everybody else in her life. She changed all of
That's a
their
good point.
lives without their permission. You know,
Does
and
she though? I mean, in the
Yes.
beginning, she really doesn't.
she does
well,
because
she does because she's going on it.
the first choice she makes,
Yeah.
Dylan is no longer a physicist. He is a school teacher.
But she didn't know that though.
But still, she's
Yeah, but just being on the show itself.
but so she's
you're manipulating.
changing people's lives
Yeah.
without their permission. You know, all the people are drawn into this world without them knowing. It's like they sign a thing like, yeah, I'm gonna be on the show with her. Like it's just
Fair
you know,
enough. Yeah.
her life, and she in that moment she decides what I want is more important than what everybody else wants or needs. She doesn't care what she doesn't care that Joe want to be a wildlife photographer. No, she wants to be a lawyer, but doesn't matter. She's gonna bring her with her
Yeah.
wherever she goes, whatever.
Yeah.
And I
wherever
do
she
think
takes.
that was well done too, where it's like towards the end as the bubbles like slowly starting to like fall apart. Like you have Joe and Victor being like, we have a court case, and then
Mhm.
they're like in their photographer Iceland clothes, and
Yeah.
they're like, wait a second, and you can see that they're having like a mental crisis,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay, that's probably what happened to Joe, and now we have Marsh, and now we have like this new season
Yeah.
that's inside of the bubble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we think it's real at all?
What do you mean?
Say
Like
again,
the-
Kelsey.
Like Marsh's entire season, like is it technically real at all?
I mean, I think it's as real. It's in the bubble. Like she's in the
Yeah.
bubble doing her whatever she's doing. It just so happens that someone's also manipulating it, right? And I think that the stuff I didn't love or didn't like about, I didn't mind that Ren ends up being quote unquote the villain.
I actually
whatever.
liked that he was the villain, and I wish
Yeah.
she committed more to that.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And obviously Talia was going to be in on it, because she seems insane from the beginning.
Sorry, can I just add that the whole time Marsh would be like, "Hey Talia, oh my gosh, like butterflies are stalking me," and Talia would be like, "Anyways, let's go get you married,"
Yeah.
and Marsh would be like, "Oh, I guess okay."
Yeah.
Like fuck, man, like all this and more.
All
Like I was gonna, I was so annoyed.
And again, it's something where is this like the idea, right? Is Talia is so famous
Mhm.
and so beloved, right? That there is so much built-in trust from Marsh because of how famous Talia is. And I like again, is that I feel like that's supposed to be some sort of satiric commentary on our relationship with famous people or influencers or
I think the book does
whatever.
a actually good job of highlighting like the parasocial relationships between people who are watching other people do things. Like
Yes,
Moms for
absolutely.
Marsh.
Yeah.
Like all the comments from the viewers, it's just like there's an ickiness to all of it where it's just like this person is not actually part of your life and
Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
taking over your life.
Yeah.
Like there's like a little like it's not very well it's not highlighted at all on purpose or like that would draw your attention to it. But all the comments that are popping up, I think is just like a good thing to be like, hey, world, Taylor Swift is not your best friend.
Right.
Just watch what you say.
I will take it. I'll take on all the Swifties. I don't care. This is a person who absolutely lives and dies over sports teams. So I have it too.
Yeah, and I do think that was really interesting, but also I think inconsistent.
Yeah.
Or maybe this was on purpose, but like sometimes people knew who Talia was, and sometimes they were just like, "Oh, here's her random friend that just appeared behind her."
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
And sometimes they
is
would be like, "Oh my god, Talia! I haven't seen them what?"
so they tried explaining that a few times in the book where it's just like I'm a famous person in a place for famous people. So I would know famous people. I guess that's
Yeah.
what like how Marsh kind of like writes it away. Like, didn't
Yeah.
they wonder why Talia was here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but still, like,
No,
The
I agree. I agree. The thing is, like, I've read one of Penn Shepard's books before. I read The Cartographers,
Mhm.
and I think my issues with her as a writer is I like the ideas that she's laying down. I don't think the execution is always great. Like the first, I'll say like 3 or 4 chapters of this, not like saying the word holy mackerel. It's just like, oh,
that was
like it just doesn't flow right. Later in the book, it starts coming together a little bit more, but just the writing, I'm not an English major, so I don't know the right way to describe this. It just feels very stunted in the beginning a lot. It's like you kind of have to force your way through it. And the cartographers, it was kind of like the same thing as well, where it was just like, this is a really great idea for a book, but the writing just doesn't carry the idea all the way to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, I think there is this idea, right, that they do where they jump cut on purpose. They're like, well, you're in one place, and all of a sudden, like, a without any indication, next paragraph, you're in a totally different place, right? And this idea is like it's like editing. It's like live editing, right, of this show because the episodes are live, and they still don't really explain like how that all works,
I mean, quantum physics, Bobby. Come on.
I'm not even talking about the bubble part. I'm talking about like they demo where when Dylan figures out that they're on the show, or she reveals to Dylan that they're on the show. She's like, then the cameras all of a sudden appeared and he could see them. And I'm like, but why can't you see him before? Like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand like that part of it, right? But
because the bubble burst for Dylan, I guess.
I guess
yeah,
so.
I see.
But he's
That's
still
how
in the
I.
bubble, though. He's
I
still
mean, but
in
that's
the
how
bubble,
that's kind of how I viewed that. Was just
Yeah.
like it is
then he
like
gets
a
sent
like
to
a
the
mask
upside down.
like a mask of illusion. Like
Yeah.
you just can't see what's right in front of you, and
Yeah.
then when somebody tells you, "Hey, look over here," you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, holy! Where did all these people come from?"
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I viewed it.
But it's not like Marsh. It's not like Marsh ever comments on seeing the cameras either. You know what I mean? That's the part to me that why it feels weirdly inconsistent.
Well, that's also
Yeah.
why like I asked the question that I asked because I sort of feel like nothing that happened is real. Because we can sort of think of it as like Stephen King's like The Dome. Like that's how I saw it. Like they are in fact in a bubble that's like has an overarching like overlordy type of viewage for everyone and there's just cameras in like the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's sort of how I saw it. So it and then like the fact that Marsh doesn't remember anything that happened to her in season 2 and all of these people are trapped in the bubble
Yeah.
for like years.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Has it
They
been
can't
years?
escape. They describe it
It's
as
been a couple of years, they said, since the first
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
and it's like I just the fact that they're like trapped and nobody knew where they were and like what was happening to them, like the twin brothers storyline
Mhm.
that he was like, oh my god, my brother's been here the whole time. And so I just feel like it was just like a bubble on top of a bubble. And so I think that idea is kind of interesting because it means that every time there is a season, there's like something else. Do you guys get what I'm doing? Like
Yeah, I
visually,
know, yeah.
like it's always gonna build
Yeah.
on top of each other, and none of their realities become real anymore. But then that is their reality.
That's why the bad ending, the technical bad ending of the book is the best ending,
Mhm.
because they're just stuck, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
like and messing with quantum physics would have some sort of result, and you start seeing the result, and our main character is just like, this is all fine, everybody looks like me now, I'm
Yeah.
now influencing people on their TVs.
And now she talks to you, dear reader. Like, what do you want to do?
All
Yeah, I was like,
this
relax.
and more.
I was like, I will not be sharing this moment with you, Marsh. Also, her name.
The
Marshmallow.
marshmallow thing is weird. It's
So
just like,
cringe.
But it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, she hates that nickname, right? She hates it. That's what she said. She
And then it
hates
was Ren the whole time.
Yeah. Yep. It was Ren the whole time.
basically that's the subtitle of the book. All this and more. It was Ren the whole time.
Yeah. So there were, there's that big kind of like the Chekhov's gun thing where it's like there was a second season that got scrapped.
Yeah.
Before it aired, and we don't know why. And of course, they make such a big deal about that at the
I
beginning.
do think it was shocking
that it was
like,
gonna come back in
yeah.
some way, right? It was gonna,
Yeah.
you were gonna, there had to be something, right? There was somebody who was the second contestant, and something happened to them. We don't know what happened to them.
Mhm.
I started to suspect Ren.
Are you a genius?
I started to suspect Ren the second he showed up at the three-way. I was just like, okay, something's going on
Really?
here. I mean,
Oh,
he
guys,
shows
I
up.
was
He
shook and
shows up
shaken.
everywhere.
Yeah, he shows up everywhere.
I
and there's
thought, like, I
Stalkerish
believed
behavior,
Talia
Kelsey.
in that moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, like, and Moms for Marsh was really pulling me with her arguments. Like, she was like, Ren's always been there, and I was like, yeah.
the other
And
thing.
it's when he started saying like, we'll get it next time,
Yeah.
or like he'll be like, oh, I'm never enough,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, calm down, like, Jesus Lord.
Who was the woman that showed up to the three-way? Did we figure that out?
I think
No.
it's supposed to be Alexis.
Or it's the woman that Dylan ends up having the affair with. What's her name?
But I think it's the same
The lady
girl.
from Sharp TV.
Yeah, Sharp TV. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
is
Was
it
it
not
Alexis?
No, that's
Is
not
that it?
Alexis. Alexis was
Oh.
Talia's producer.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, Alexis was Talia's friend.
Who shows up
there.
as like the director in that one
yeah.
scene or whatever. I like there. My theory at first, when Ren first shows up, when she takes that other guy home with her, and then it's him in the morning or whatever when she wakes up, and it's not the guy, the agent.
Yeah, the other
lawyer.
the other lawyer.
The other
Yeah.
lawyer. I was like, oh, is the bubble trying to keep her and Dylan apart because of Dylan's like history with the people who created the bubble? Because so is there like some sort of thing that this new company is doing? They don't want her to be with Dylan because Dylan's the key to uncovering whatever scary stuff that they've been doing or whatever. But yeah, once Ren, a little bit close to halfway through, I was like, I think Ren has something to do with whatever's going on.
Yeah, that's where
Oh my gosh,
I
you guys are
thought
so
some.
smart.
Look, I don't pick up on this shit at all.
Um,
But I thought this book kind of threw it in our face.
the thing is, like, I wish. So the book does this thing where they're like, when the show came back without any warning, right? It just comes back on. There's no promotion. And people just stop their cars in the middle of the highway and walk to the nearest television. And baseball players drop their gloves and run into the clubhouse to watch it. I'm like, okay, this is a satire. But then later on, it just feels like they're playing it straight. Like, no, this is like a normal thing where there's an online community that's like a little too into it, but it's like the same people's names you see every time that she doesn't change up the names really after a certain point. It's just like, they'll say like, oh, there's like 1,000 messages, but it's always like, Not a Mackerel and Moms for Marsh and Sharp whatever, who are the ones who are talking, Sharp Truth. So, there's that stuff. And there's something there like where it just feels a little like,
or if they were in a random country, it would suddenly be the language of that country.
Exactly.
Now it has fans.
And there's stuff where like the what's his name, the one of the brothers was trying to like hack in through the chat room or whatever. Yeah, but it's like that's not how it works.
Oh my god! And when it would cut off his his message, I'm like, now I have been on Twitch sometimes.
Yeah. The moderation tools aren't this good.
You're not cutting off as he's typing and entering.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish like you look at the ending, Justin, that end, the bad ending, whatever. I wish things had gotten a little bit, I guess, scarier or more
What's the
intense.
bad ending? What are we calling the bad ending?
The one where she stays in the bubble.
Oh, okay.
And like
did
the
you
whole
read
world.
Kelsey?
talks
Did you
Yeah.
read that ending?
Yes, and it ends with
Okay.
with and more. I just saw it again. I was like, I'm gonna count this at the end.
I mean, that's
I just
got to be
saw
the
it.
Kelsey,
last
it's at the
one.
end of every chapter. So
Yeah.
how many chapters are there in this book?
But
It's not the end of every. It's not the end of every chapter. It's the end of
Bobby. It's almost the end of
every
chapter.
episode.
Every episode. At the end of every
'Cause
episode.
there are
Yeah, no,
episodes
that's
and then
that's when
chapters
they
inside
say it.
Yeah.
Because that's when
There's 10 episodes.
Talia kind of throws up the
And then
alley oop, and then Marsh
gonna
comes
count it.
and slams dunk and
Continue
says,
talking.
Yeah. There's 10 episodes, so it's at least 10 times. It's probably said a couple more times than that because they say it at the beginning.
I'm
Like
gonna
a few
say 15 times. They
Say
say
15
it in
times
a
so far.
460 page book.
Continue talking. I'm listening to you.
Okay. I don't believe you.
Okay,
for
I
one
really
second.
don't believe her at all. The professor is down her own rabbit hole.
Yeah. The professor is on Reddit right now posting theories.
Oh, if I could find the electronic copy, we can actually count. Okay, go. Continue speaking.
But here's the thing that also disappoints me out of the book is that so many things in this book are exactly my shit when it comes to stories like this,
Mhm.
right? I like multiple reality stories, like Dark Matter. I like the idea of like you're doing something and you're kind of breaking the rules, and so there is something that's going to come back and get you right by the end. Like you can't it's like with the end game thing, right? You can't mess with time. Time's going to mess back, right? It's you can't do this without impunity, right? With impunity, sorry. And so the chrysalis thing, I was very interested in. I was like, okay, what is this going to be, right? Like what is this thing? And I felt like at the end, like, yeah, chrysalis is Ren or whatever, but that explanation I feel like is not satisfying when it comes to why it was showing up as little words here and there, and then slowly more and more getting more like bigger in their lives, right? Like from the explanation of what he did, which was to mess with the bubble and reprogram it.
Also, this random guy is just like, I'm going to mess with quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
You watch me. I'm going to hack in and do this.
But I like what I do like about that explanation, though, is it's very like Groundhog's Day, where he's like, I just kept going back and kept learning about it until I knew as much as they did.
Oh, it's like Loki.
Exactly. And then they didn't realize it. So I could go in and just be like, I'm writing a story. And then I was able to, manipulate it, essentially. I don't mind that explanation. Like, that is, I think, a good use of this system, right?
Yes. I didn't think of it like that, but yes.
Yeah, I think he's,
sorry, go ahead, Kelsey.
I think he manipulated Talia as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I don't think Marsh's entire storyline, like anything that happened is actually real in any way.
Well, it's real. It's just not all her decisions. That's the thing.
It's because like even choosing her to go on the show is still Ren's decision.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So it's like,
But Dylan still chose to cheat. It's just he set up the person that he cheated with.
Well, no, I think the idea is like he manipulated Dylan as they manipulated Dylan because Dylan was also in the bubble. So they manipulated everything about the situation until it was like just exactly
like
so.
Marsh can't sit there now with all this knowledge and honestly think to herself that he cheated out of his own free will.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't even have free will.
She does though in the book.
Yeah,
because
no, of course. But that's what I'm saying. Like you can't consciously like have all this knowledge of what happened and sit there and not be like, the love of my life maybe didn't. Like that's a very real people go back to
I see
their
what you're
husbands
saying.
for worse. You know what I mean? Like
then your high school boyfriend manipulated time and space.
Like you're
but how romantic is that?
I know.
It drove me crazy.
They were down there.
It drove me crazy because at the end, she has the show Bible, and like Ren is basically doing a villain's speech of like, yes, I am a stalker. And like, I will go through your garbage and smell your underwear that you throw out and all this stuff. And she's just like, well, I don't want to admit it, but he's like kind of right.
Yeah.
Like,
flattering.
I kind of do feel that way.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to hit her over the head with a baseball bat.
Yes, exactly. There were moments where I was like, stand up, Marsh, please.
But I think in those moments, right, I I have to give her paying Shepard some credit. I think that's on purpose. I think you're supposed to be like, wait, does this person kind of suck? Like, I think that's...
Yeah, because also technically she's being manipulated by Ren.
Yeah.
Like Talia telling her like, but isn't Ren like such a little cutie? And her being like, you know what? Actually,
yeah,
he might be.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wait, is that actually real?
Yeah.
Because these are also just two women talking about Ren, being placed to speak in an environment to talk about Ren by Ren himself.
Right. And I honestly think for Marsh, if Ren hadn't gone the step to like erase Dylan from being Harper's father and stuff like that, I don't think she ever would have really gotten to that place where she was angry enough or upset enough to do what she ended up to go to lengths she went to. I think that was the breaking point for her. It was like, no, you can't mess with like my daughter in that way, right? You're completely...
And that's too much because there's no
too
benefit.
Far. It's a bridge too
there's
far.
No benefit to Harper.
Exactly.
Like, her being a violinist or her having like a wolf as a dog.
Yeah.
Like those are all positives for Harper.
Yeah.
The relationship she's building with her mom, like those are all positives.
Yes, absolutely.
Ren being her father is like at that point I knew that Ren was evil, right?
Yeah.
But like that was just, I was like, Ren, boy, my boy, that was too much. That's too disgusting.
Now it's becoming too obvious.
Now we've gone too far. Yeah.
So I listened to this a little. I didn't listen to the whole thing on audiobook because actually it was very difficult to listen to an audiobook.
Yeah, I bet. So how did you get to any point where it's just like, if you want to do this, how does that happen?
If I was listening on Audible, I think the chapters probably been better marked. But I was like, I looked on Libby and it didn't exist on Libby. There was no audiobook version on Libby. So I signed up for a free trial for audiobooks.com and you got like it was on there. And so they don't even have this is by chapters. It just says track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4. And so it was like, go to chapter this for it. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. There's just tracks here.
I
So
think on Audible,
at that point,
it would have been the only way to.
Yeah. So at that point,
effective.
I was like, well, I'm just going to stop listening to this on audiobook. And I listened to a little bit more of it when I was into the second half, where it was just like a long run of just, there are no choices. So I was like, okay, I can listen to it a little bit here, like on my walk or whatever. And I will say the audiobook reader, she does a really good job of making Talia seem kind of creepy, you know, in those moments where she comes across that way in the book. Like the like the kind of like fake host voice she puts on is actually really effective.
When she's like, Marsh, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Isn't this perfect?
Let's go to the circus.
Yeah.
I forgot she went to the circus at a certain point.
Yes, because it doesn't make sense.
But that's what I liked about that chapter, though. The idea of that chapter was like it was like a montage like episode.
Yeah.
So she was just bouncing all these things. The thing I didn't like was all of a sudden it was like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where she was just like, where they're like, you know, I remember I put the keys underneath the planter pot, and then they're just underneath the planter pot. At that point, she's like, I want the flowers to be red, and the flowers just turn red without any sort of anything. It's like she can control every bit of the reality at every moment.
But she starts doing that completely in the second half of the book, because when she's in Hong Kong, she's just like spending all day being like, I want the office bigger. I want to change mine and Joe's office. I want to have this decor in my kitchen. Like, bitch, shut up.
But you know what it is? You know what it is? If I was her and I was frustrated by like the situation that I'm in, and I'm like given endless choices and like nobody's really listening to me, like I think I would do the same.
Yeah, I get it. And for those moments, I totally get it.
Like I'm fed up.
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm fed up and nothing I do makes a difference, like Ren is always weirdly there and like everything is going well in my life, like why not start with changing little details? Like I would be like, well, I would like for my dog to be a wolf, and I would like for my house to have 10 bedrooms. Like,
I could
what stops you, you know?
I could see doing that type of stuff, but like I said earlier in the show, it was like when she starts really changing people's personalities, like not just changing like, hey, guess what, guys, we're photographers now, but being like, guess what, you hate the color red. When you see it, you're going to vomit uncontrollably. That's like the type of stuff that she's doing.
I mean, she didn't do exactly that.
But she's like basically
she did that at all.
She did that with Ren a lot.
I mean, she was just like,
but Ren is doing it to himself. Ren is doing this just to please her. Everything that he did in the bubble, he says it. He's like, I'll get it right next time. I'll do this next time. Like he is doing it to himself. She's like, oh, I want a bad boy. He's like, I'll do cocaine in the bathroom. Don't ask me twice. Like he's changing.
Yeah.
That's why Ren doesn't have these mental breakdowns that like
Yeah.
Joe and Victor have, where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, let's go to the bar, and then they're like, wait, we're at a circus, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have to like, and Victor has to like take Joe away and like console her because
Yeah.
she's literally like, where
We're like in
am I?
WandaVision territory at that
Like,
point.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
Ren is the only one that's like, don't worry, Joe, we have another day to do this, or we have another episode to do this,
Yeah.
and like he's the only one that's not breaking down
Yeah.
because he's like, we could redo this a million times.
Because he's the only one too, which I didn't even think about this until you're saying that. No one else's personality really changes.
No, it's just him.
Right? So
He knows it. He's doing it consciously.
yeah, so it must be him doing it because it wouldn't make sense if she was able to change people's personalities, right? Because
Yeah.
the whole point is she gets to change her choices and like the little things that lead to and that could change someone's perspective on something.
He's the only one that actually
Yeah.
changes. Joe never changes. She's always single. She's always
Yeah.
like she's she likes her job. She's always
Yeah.
standing by her friend. Victor's always like promotions here and there.
Yeah.
Harper still loves music.
Kelsey,
Yeah.
please be my boss.
Yeah, like Dylan still likes physics until he's kicked out of the show because Ren doesn't like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ren is the only one where he's like, I will do whatever it takes. I will grow a beard. I will be this. I will be that.
Mhm.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm Harper's dad. What are you
Mhm.
gonna do about it now?
Yeah. Like if that's the only reason you want to go back to Dylan, look, that's not a reason anymore. Like
exactly.
You know,
Like
yeah,
he's
exactly.
the only one that's conscious, I think,
Mhm.
the whole time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he is for 100%.
No, he definitely is conscious the whole time.
Like,
Yeah.
but he's the only personality that changes.
Yeah.
Harper never changes. Dylan never changes.
Yeah.
They don't actually change. They
Yeah.
change their careers, but they're all flustered as to why.
Yeah.
Like they're
Uh-huh.
all like,
That's a good point. I didn't
Yeah.
think of it like that.
Ren is the only one that things happen to him, and he's just like,
Yeah.
let's go, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I
he's
smoke
chilling.
now.
He's cruising.
Yeah.
Like no matter what decision is made, he's like, that's fine with me.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And I like the idea, right, that Talia, you know, she got famous and all this stuff from making all these choices, and then when it was over, she was like, I can't just go back to like the regular life where you only get to do things once, you know. And I think that's an interesting way for like the way in for Ren to manipulate her into kind of being this sort of accomplice for him, right? Which is that because it happens at the end, right? If you read the ending where she goes back to Dylan, it's sort of the same idea, right? Which is like she's gonna go back and be the new host because it's just what her brain is wired to be now, right? That's why I think when she's changing all that stuff in Hong
Yeah,
Kong,
and power's addicting. as
yeah,
well.
it's like what do you do? It's like if you could all of a sudden change everything in your life to make it how you wanted to, at a certain point you wouldn't be able to stop yourself. You know, you would just be like, you'd get into a point where you'd be addicted to it, and you would just be like, no, we're gonna change this. This is not perfect. Let's go back and redo that conversation. No. You know, I didn't do this quite right. Let me do this. If I say this now, I think that's kind of a natural thing.
Mhm.
A quick aside, because I completely forgot about it till just this moment. In the canonically, we'll say good ending,
What's the good
where
She goes back to Dylan, I think
she goes back
okay.
to Dylan, right?
It's
Where
the
she
least
just
She, like,
she
accepts
chooses
that she can't
dark
she
ending.
chooses reality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Talia comes to her and says, like, I want you to be the host of the next season.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Marsha's like grappling with it. And then she's holding the show Bible in her lap. And then it ends with like her like deciding like, I don't know if I want to do this or whatever. And then Talia grabbing the book and being like, saying something along the lines of like, you don't have to make every choice, or some choices you don't have to make, or something like that. Like she's
Some
taking
things
it
aren't in our
back.
control.
Yes,
Yes,
like
yeah.
or something like she's gonna take it back from her and like
Yeah.
not make her the host of the next show. I kind of liked that ambiguous ending.
Yeah, but I think the implication is she's going to be the host. I think that is what the book is kind of hinting at.
Really, because I thought it was the other way around. I
No.
read that as Talia looks at her and she's like, she really doesn't want to do this, and she grabs the book back from her. She
Oh,
like
no.
they're
Yeah,
both
I read
holding
it
the
like
book,
Bobby.
but like, why would Talia then go grab the book on her lap and put her and like put like I forget the exact wordage. I could look for it, but it's like Talia also takes her hands on the book.
She says This is the last paragraph. Come on, Talia chides. I know you want to. No, Marsh refuses, but she doesn't give the show Bible back. It's still in her lap, still in her grip. Her former host waits, her beautiful eyes sharpened, her delicate lips curled. The show must go on, she says at last. Some things we have no choice about. She leans in a little closer, puts her graceful hand on top of Marsh's, gently, encouragingly. Together, the two sets of fingers curl around the edge of the book's cover. And others we do.
Oh no, I read it wrong. Never mind.
Yeah, so it's Marsh basically going like, I'm gonna open this thing now, right?
Yeah.
And I like this idea, right? That like the show Bible thing, I think, is actually a pretty good hint about what's happening, right? That there's somebody else manipulating it, because like Marsh would make one choice and then the Bible would come back huge. And one of the things like you would see like all these changes, right, in that in what's his name in Ren in between those episodes, and I think that's what you learn it is, right? It's Ren making all these changes as well that she doesn't know about. What was like your favorite, I guess, episode, like setting, thing, whatever?
I kind of liked Iceland.
Yeah, I think Iceland was the one I was most into.
I think I liked Iceland too.
Yeah.
Because it was like, all right, what if this is our first one where it's just like, what if you weren't a lawyer?
Yeah.
What if you just were
exactly.
something else, right?
Yeah.
What if you're like a wildlife photographer?
Yeah.
And your friends are here with you.
Mm-hmm.
Your family's here with you. They're, like Ren at this point is slightly different, but like he's still Ren. And at this point you think like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And her daughter's like very into it. And she's just going to like play at this.
She's playing her Icelandic.
At this. Yeah. And like,
viola.
I really liked that. And like, I liked that they went down that path. I don't know if I would have chosen a actress next, but it was, I really liked that setting.
Yeah.
Because she's like, but one of the things I did like about it, and it's just one of those things where it's just like you fake it until you make it, was when they were like, the longer you're in this life, the more you'll just gain the knowledge of what you have to do to survive in this life. So she had no idea how to take pictures. She had no idea how to do this or that or the other thing. And it was just like, just wing it and it will all work out.
Yeah. But I also like that, like, you get the perspective of the viewers that are like, the entire country of Iceland is going to give her a Nobel Peace Prize for taking a picture. Like, I was like, you know what? Not
No.
macro.
So
You're
that was, she was getting a Nobel Peace Prize for acting.
For acting. That was Nobel Peace
or whatever.
Prize.
Yeah.
She was getting a gallery off one photo.
Of one photo. That's what that thing was. With the photo
Which
of the
is
butterfly.
slightly more believable than getting the Nobel Peace Prize.
It was a gallery, but then it went a bit further. And people were like, because it went a bit further, and someone was like, the entire country is going to give her that. Like,
there was something about the Iceland.
They were like, the entire country of Iceland cares about her this much.
About this butterfly.
And I was
picture.
like, you know what? That's a good point, actually. And so
Yeah.
then I was like, I think I liked that perspective, because you could see that this is, again, really outside, like they are viewers outside of this bubble. Because to them, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then Moms for Marsha is like, let her live. Free her.
Yeah. The act. What I think is like, I think that scene is meant to show you like, look, this is awesome. Like, she has an awesome life. She's awesome at what she does.
I would have stopped right there.
She's kind of a badass, right? Her daughter's really happy. She's got all this acclaim. She's got all this great stuff. And she still wants to change it, right? And I think that's the point where her character really starts to turn.
Yeah. But I also think it's where Ren's character also turns too.
Yeah.
Because Talia all of a sudden is like, time to get married.
Yeah.
And she's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Why?
Ren is
it's because Ren wants to lock it down.
He does, yeah.
He's like, it's cuffing season. I need my girl. Like, let's lock her down so that we're married by the mid-season finale.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing Marsh can do about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's evil.
Yeah. No,
he's evil.
Ren is literally the definition of a nice guy.
Oh, he's evil.
Like, he is there and he's just like, I'm so perfect for you that you literally have no other choice than to be with me.
For you.
I mean, I mean, what else is there to show your devotion?
Yeah, I
And
mean, but the funny
snorting
thing,
lines of
right,
coke.
is
In the bathroom.
he is doing exactly what she wants,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, and so I think it is this weird brokenness
Just
of
play
both
that
of
Vertical
them.
Horizon song over every time Ren talks. That's a cutback for older millennials.
Yeah, it's okay. Speak your
it's-
truth.
Kelsey, do you not know this Vertical Horizon song? Where basically the singer is like, I'm everything you want, I'm everything you need, and you don't want me?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. What's it called?
Shit, Bobby, what's that song called?
Oh my god, I don't remember what that song is called.
But what did you say? I didn't even
Vertical
understand.
Horizon.
Oh, Vertical Horizon.
Everything You Want is the name.
Everything
of the
you want. It's like basically, I'm everything you want, I'm everything you need, and you don't want me, and I don't
Yeah,
understand
'cause you
why.
suck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a very popular song around 2003.
It was a hugely popular song. The thing I wish there was more of, which I feel like they reveal what's going on a little bit
Oh,
too late.
everything you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the nice guy's anthem.
Yeah.
The thing I wish they did more of, which I think it's just too late when they reveal what Ren's deal is and what the whole idea is, right? Is more of the idea of, wait, what is my choice and what is someone else's choice? Because if I started this thing in the bubble, like where along the way did I even make my own choices? Right? And I think there's I wish there was more actual story time given to that than just her recounting it in sort of like a recap of what happened in her life leading up to her time going into the bubble, right? So I think that I wish there was a little more of that, because that kind of paranoia stuff I think could have been a lot of fun. Like I like when she's like skipping between all the recap memories and trying to find Dylan, and Ren just keeps showing up, and she ends up in that like library place or whatever. But even that doesn't make the explanation. That doesn't even make that much sense, because he's like, well, it makes sense because you were going in memories that you remembered meeting me in, but this is where I met you.
Oh, when she finds Dylan again.
Yeah, where I first saw you. But I was like, but that she doesn't remember that. So why would she ever end up
She was just running
here?
away. She was just trying to find peace and calm.
I mean, I would find peace and calm in a library.
Me too, absolutely.
I would actually probably be Barnes and Nobles, because I don't go to the library physically anymore when I have Libby. I have Libby.
You should go to the library. It's just
It's a digital library. The Longwood Library sucks.
It does not. What are you talking about? Longwood Library is great.
Middle Country Library rolls over it multiple times.
Justin.
I'm 100% right on this.
Justin's like, I can't go to the library that I have access to because there's a better library. And then he doesn't understand. He does not understand Marsh's whole perspective on.
I went to the better library, and now I've downgraded to a worse library.
See? But this library was just a little bit bigger. If the stacks were just a little bit taller.
Yeah,
then it would be
there
perfect.
you
Then
go.
it would be
Look
perfect
at-
for Justin.
And you're not even in a show.
Yeah.
What if this is a show? I am the main character number 4.
Honestly, like if I was in this type of show, I would be Joe, like in the corner being like, we were going to the bar tonight. Like that would be how I would be acting.
What I thought was funny was like all this stuff would be crazy different, and then the thing that would freak her out, she'd be like, Pickle's a cat now? And I'm like, that's
No,
the
but
thing
that's-
you're freaking out about?
But that's why she would annoy the fuck out of me. Because
I think she's
she
an
would see-
annoying character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like she would see like it's very obvious, and even the viewers are like, wait, the chrysalis again? That's a
Yeah.
little weird. And she would be like, yeah, let me go talk to this girl that's been lying to me
Mhm.
the whole time.
Yeah.
And then Talia being like, I think you just saw a butterfly. Anyways,
Yeah.
let's go pick out your wedding dress.
Yeah.
And
And
she'd be
then
like,
Marsh would
bet,
be
let's
like-
go.
And
Yeah.
Marsh would be like, you girly. And I was just like, is this a joke?
Yeah. Girl, you
Or,
look
like,
great in that
when-
dress, honey. Who
Or,
cares
like,
about a
when She would
butterfly?
tell like Alexis or Juliet or one of the random staff characters from
Yeah.
the past, and they would be like, they would like come out of like a trance, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, "You need to listen to me, and you need to listen to me good. You need to get to the."
Yeah.
And then Talia would be like,
Yeah.
"What are you guys talking about?" And then Marsh would be like, "The chrysalis, like I've been telling you." And
Yeah.
Talia would be like, "Don't worry about
Honey."
these silly things.
Yeah.
Ren is on it. He's an investigator."
Yeah.
And then Marsh would be like, "No, you're so true. Let's go to the circus." Like, and I was just there, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
For
But
a
even
book-
at
ran
like
away
the end, even at
so
the end where she like they're running away and they end up in like that, like they try to go to the TV studio and then they end up in like that dance party, and it's obvious that the show is like tracking them down, trying to force her into making this decision. And even then, she's like, "Talia, you won't believe this. Ren is doing something." And Talia's like, "Yeah, I know. Obviously, obviously,
yeah,
I'm in
there
on
was a
it."
certain chapter where Talia was like, "Girl,
Yeah, yeah,
Like, how dumb are you?
yeah.
like it's enough now."
I couldn't have made it more obvious to you that I was in on this whole thing. Why do you think every time you brought it up, I changed the topic of conversation that we were having?
Oh my god! Or when like it was with Alexis, and then like they shoot her somewhere, and like Talia manages to find her, and then she's like, "Thank God you found me,"
Yeah.
like as if Talia didn't send you there.
Yeah.
Let's use our brains,
Yeah.
Marsh.
Well, that moment with Alexis or whatever, they're like, she knows Talia's trying to fight her way to her, and she's like, "No, we gotta figure out what's going on. We gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here." And Alexis is like opening, trying to rip on the show Bible to send her someplace different or whatever. And even after that, like you said, she's just like, "Talia, what's going on?"
Talia,
I'm like,
you'll
"You were
never
just
believe.
running away from Talia. I don't understand. I thought we were in like a new status quo of this show at this point, and then we're not. We're going right back to Talia sort of."
And none of the viewers were like, "Yeah, maybe we shouldn't trust Talia." Like they hear
Yeah.
the Chrysalis, they're like, "Hey, something's up."
Could you
And then they're
imagine
like, the entire
people being like,
country of
"I can't
Iceland-
trust Taylor Swift"? Guys, we shouldn't trust Taylor.
But
Because
Taylor
I'm trying to
has-
think. I
but Taylor
like
has our
I.
best
They were
interests at
already
heart.
fighting in the comments. Like they were already established.
Yeah, but there's
this,
always
like-
people that are gonna argue with Taylor Swift. Like Talia would be like Taylor Swift times
Justin,
1,000.
You're really scaring me. Stop.
I'm picking the most popular woman on the face of the planet, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
100%
you're doing it
Talia
on
Swift.
purpose, and
Talia
people are
Talia
gonna-
Swift.
Can't, they're
Talia
gonna get rid of my channel.
Oh my god.
Kelsey will get the most viewers she's ever gotten, and then the
I'm
next day her channel will be gone.
I, for one, do not condone.
r/Travis and Taylor.
Yeah, I like Travis Kelsey. We have the same.
You should
name.
check out that subreddit.
No. Certain words of that sentence are muted for me, on Twitter and everywhere. It's not the
Subreddit?
Travis part.
Oh, the
It's not the Travis part. But I don't know. Like, I agree with what you're saying, Justin, but I do think the viewers were apprehensive enough. But there were some that they would be like, "Oh my, you ever?"
No,
you
there
guys
are
watch
definitely a
SpongeBob?
couple.
Did you guys
I've
watch SpongeBob?
no, I've never watched.
There's one
SpongeBob.
episode where like SpongeBob's trying to do stand-up comedy, and like one of the fishes is like, "Get this guy out of here!" And every
sounds
time,
hilarious.
not a mackerel or sharp truth would like talk, people would be like, "Can we do something about this guy?"
Yeah.
Top fan 01. Who
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah, I wonder who Top Fam
Yeah,
was
they dropped
because
in
they
at
were
one time or whatever.
they
They
were
a mod that couldn't do
100%.
anything. They would
Yeah.
be like, "Mods, can we do something?"
Uh-huh.
You're
Mod.
top fan number 1.
We can only stop Sharp Truth from typing halfway through their message.
Marsh, I hated it. I hated it. I don't know if it's because I read it like with my eyeballs that I hated it more, because like I could see all.
You know
these,
what
like,
though? For a book
errors.
that you heavily disliked, I'm not gonna say heavily disliked. You gave it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah,
It's not a
happy.
1. It's not a 0.
Yeah.
We've had a good discussion about it, I think,
Yeah.
because there's a lot
Yeah,
to talk about
course.
here.
Well, it's got a lot. It's a very ambitious.
I think
book.
I think we need to commemorate how ambitious it is.
It is very ambitious.
Yeah.
It's very
because,
ambitious.
Because the part on it, I'll be honest, like the part where she's revealing that Ren is evil, I was like, okay, this is fun.
Yeah.
And then Marsh kept being stupid,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay.
Well, it's the part where it's the most maddening part of that, even though I think it's kind of on purpose sometimes, is when Ren shows up at the library and he like is like, "Yeah, I know I did all this stuff, but this is why." And Dylan's like, "You're crazy, man. Like, we're getting out of here." And Marshall's like, "Well, I don't know.
Well,
He is kind of a cutie." Like,
He
okay,
did
maybe
like
you should,
me since high school.
yeah, maybe you should just go. Maybe Mark
But-
should just go with Ren.
But then again, like if this is Ren's world,
yeah,
like
but he can't change her personality.
So I
right?
feel like a
Yeah.
nice guy, like it feels like a nice guy wrote this book. Like it's a nice guy fanfic where it's just like if I'm
Well, no, 'cause
really
he's
good,
evil.
yeah, but the thing is, like, he's really evil, but
But I
he
think that's
makes
But it's
some
'cause it's
good
his season.
points.
yeah. But I think that's speaking right to like you watch reality shows, right? And you see these
No,
people.
I don't watch reality shows, so
If you
this is
watch
all
a reality
this is all
show-
lost to me.
Justin is different than
They-
others. He
you
doesn't
know-
like Taylor Swift and he doesn't watch reality shows.
I like Taylor Swift. I like that Florida song.
There is a lot of times, right? There's actually shows about relationships or dating or
Mhm.
whatever, where all these people you would never want to speak to any of these people or know these people in real life, and the men or the women, and but you know whatever the other one of them will always be like, oh my god, Mark is just the dreamiest guy and
Mark.
I want to marry him. And then he's like, you know, a fucking meathead from Staten Island who talks about, you know, how he cheated on 17 people or whatever. And you're like, I don't understand this at all. Where is the brain? The brains are broken. And I think that is what this is, right? I think
Yeah.
her brain is just kind of broken. Like she is in such a state of
Yeah.
the whole universe she's been living in for however long this has lasted, right?
Years, apparently.
It's all tuned to her, right? Everything is tuned to her. Every decision, every choice, everything is, you know, she's the main character, right? Of this world, essentially. And that's gonna break your brain, right? To the point where, like, well, if there's a
Yeah.
person in this world who their entire desire is to be the supporting character to my main character, that's sort of alluring to me because I am now, my ego has been so pumped up by what I've been doing that of course, like, why would I choose to go back to reality where my husband could cheat on me, where I get older and I'm gonna look worse, where I'm going, my job
like
is not
who
gonna
wants
be
to take the
fulfilling.
responsible decision?
Exactly. Or I can just be the main character and have everything I
Forever.
ever wanted. Exactly. So
And I think that she
get
gets to that point when we're
Yeah.
talking about like the multiple decisions that she's making. Like
Yes.
that's what it ends up being. Is that like because you have all this power, why not utilize it until you become responsible
Mhm.
and boring?
There's one line that I kind of liked in the book, and as somebody who's very vain himself, and it's basically when she was like sent back in time a little bit, like 10 years.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh my God, like when I was in this body, I hated this body. And it was just like, holy shit, I am so fucking hot right now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good. I think that was a good reminder for people to be like, right now, you're the greatest you've ever looked in your whole life. Go for it.
Hmm. Or even like when she's going back to those moments and she's like realizing things. Like I think it was like nice because I think that also helped ground her too.
Mhm.
And I think she was sort of like, okay, there are these moments that were like good in my life that I don't appreciate in hindsight of feeling low, but like feeling better, I see them more
Mhm.
positively.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Also, the reveal of her nickname. Why was that relevant? Like, I was like, okay, we didn't have to develop on this that it's a trauma from elementary school. Like, and then it was Ren again, and I was
Yeah.
like, when does he leave? Like,
Also, it's just so weird that, like, right, she can make any decision she ever wants in this world, but none of her decisions are, I don't want people to call me Marsh
yeah, what's
anymore.
your name?
Yeah, what's her name? Do they ever say her name?
No, they don't. I think it's on
Okay.
purpose, but it's
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure. She just is Marsh, right? That's what it is.
yeah,
And if Ren gave her that name, obviously that would be a reason why the bubble wouldn't be a thing where she could change her name.
that's so true. Wow,
Truth bomb.
we
Truth
really are
bomb.
just living in Ren's world.
We are.
What a horrible world.
Can I just say too, really quickly, I was looking through, I was finishing the book and I was under the back cover. Pink Shepherd, a looker.
Peng Shepherd is
Good-looking
so
woman.
fucking hot.
Yeah,
She's
Good
so
looking-
beautiful.
good looking
She's
woman.
beautiful. She's a
The
beautiful
book of-
woman.
The Book of M, I've heard really good things about.
So like I said, I read the cartographers, and
Yeah.
I liked the concept of the book a lot. I was glad that I read it. I was just like, this is good. Like, it's good.
Mhm.
Like, but it
Yeah.
just could be a little tiny bit more. But I was glad I read it. The Book of M is on my to read list.
Yeah. I've heard really good things about the Book of M. And I think I feel about all this and more like you feel about the cartographers. Like I think in the grand scheme of things, this was a very ambitious book, and kudos. Like, you have to be intelligent to try to like create webs and threads of
Mhm.
stuff within a physical object.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's easier in a video game than it is, not easier, don't want to discredit my coworker, but like it's
More
harder in
conducive to
yeah, it's harder in a physical thing because like you cannot adjust any mismatched or unplaced choices that a reader is thinking, right? So kudos to her. Once
Yeah,
that was one of my
absolutely,
stars.
absolutely. It's definitely a thing where she didn't sit down and go like, well, I could like, let me just
Like, she
write.
could have just written this story.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah.
and had it like super linear, and Ren was evil the whole time, and
Mhm.
like they were in Ren's bubble the whole time, and blah 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 blah.
She,
I think
she went for something.
Mhm.
yeah, I think personally I think I would have enjoyed it more the other way, because I think a lot of like what I disliked is attributed to perhaps like the repetitiveness and like the format a bit.
Mhm.
Kelsey,
Um
all this.
I by the way I requested the ebook at my library, so in 2 weeks we're all gonna know how many times it was said. We'll see.
We'll see how many times it said all this and more.
Any extra thoughts about it?
No, I gotta think out everything out that I
I'm
wanted to get out.
like, I think that I'm glad that we had this discussion.
Yeah.
And I, when
Yeah, I do still think it was a really interesting book. Like, when we were reading it, I was like when we were getting to the Ren evil part, I was like, okay, we're
there are
getting
things to talk about. Well, I
we're
was a little
getting
worried
somewhere.
because when I picked this, literally when I picked this, and I didn't know it was 100% a choose your adventure book. You're like, how are we going to talk about this?
Yeah, and you were so confident. You're like, that's the fun in it. And I was like,
I was right.
maybe I should be more chill.
Kelsey, I don't want to hear anything about chillness after we read Bride.
Yeah.
Like, if we could talk about Bride, we could literally talk about anything.
Yeah.
I'm still embarrassed. I can't even look you guys in the eyes.
All right, keep talking for a second. I'll be right back. All right.
Why?
Because I gotta get the book for next.
You already
month.
have it?
Yes. Hold
Oh
on a
my
second.
gosh. Okay, let me go on Amazon so I get it prepared. What do you think it's going to be, Justin?
I think it's going to be The Exorcist.
The Exorcist? What
That's
a
what I think.
turn.
I think that's what I think it's going to be.
Oh. That's going to be fun because I've only seen one Exorcist movie.
I've seen none of them. I've never read any of them.
You never watched This is fun for all of us as little
Kelsey, you know my background.
Yeah, this is going to be
You
so
already
fun
gave
for
away
us.
what book I was doing?
No, she asked
No,
me
we
what I
guessed.
thought it
We
was
guessed.
going
We
to
were
be.
guessing.
Okay.
So wait, let everybody know what the guesses, the choices were that we
Okay.
had.
So obviously we're going to be reading this. We're not talking about it to November, but we were reading this book in October.
Yes.
So I wanted to pick something a little spooky because I'm watching a bunch of spooky movies and stuff like that. So I told the crew there was 3 books I was considering. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, which is the new Riley Sager book, came out a couple months ago.
That was my pick.
The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. We've spoken about doing a Grady Hendrix book on here, so I thought it might be a good time to do it. But
I think we did, but didn't we choose to read that one together in October, like 4 months ago?
we said no. I think we were gonna do the new one whenever it came out. That whatever month.
Which one's the new one?
It's like the
Which way?
Oh, yes.
whatever
You're right.
It's called. Whatever that one is called, we're gonna do that one
when it comes out.
When it comes out.
Okay.
Which is next year.
It is next year. Yes. Or The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty.
Which I guess is the one you're picking because you had to look at the author's name.
Well, I'm just looking at the list of books I have here.
It comes out in January. We could read it for our birthdays.
We can absolutely. If you're going to be able to do a book club,
yeah, you're right. I'll be
Kelsey, it's kind of going to be a crazy month for you, Kelsey.
Kelsey, Bobby and I are already like pre-planning. Well, we're going to be taking a hiatus for the show for a certain amount of time.
We'll see how I feel. Like,
yeah,
I'm
we'll
gonna be up and about,
we'll go off whatever you decide to do. But you're not going to
audiobooks.
I can tell you're not going to want to do a fucking book club in January. I can tell you that right now.
Okay, maybe February.
You're going to be sleeping for an hour a night. You're not going to want to do a book club. But yes, we're going to do The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty.
I am all about.
It looks thick AF, and I didn't realize it was that thick.
It's not thick. It's 360 pages.
Oh, it looks bigger from here.
No, it's 360.
I guess it's
pages.
the
That's also what she said.
It's 378 pages. So it's not even 400 pages.
Oh, okay.
Great. My
Um,
religious self is looking forward to this.
I love religious.
by the way,
spooky stuff.
I ran this by Justin. I
He
said,
did. That's
Justin,
why I knew this was the pick.
would you be I'm leaning towards The Exorcist. I was like, but I know last time I picked a scary book, which was about a year ago, you were very upset with the thematic nature of that book.
I was upset with the thematic nature because it involves, not because it was scary or anything like that, because it involves the
children.
Yes.
children
Yeah.
and a particular fear of mine with one of
Yes.
my children.
So, but I knew this thing, obviously the religious aspect of
I'm
it.
basically atheist at this point.
No,
so...
but I mean, just like, you know, you're not allowed to experience with this type of story, and also it is child in harm.
I'm prepared,
as a lot of horror is.
The whole thing here.
Kids are creepy.
Yeah, and this is one of the OG creepy kids.
You have one of them growing inside you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sorry, I've never experienced more body horror in my life. I felt like I was in the Alien movies the other day because I saw it like.
Is he kick? Oh, have you seen, like, has he like completely flipped over where your stomach literally ripples like away? It's so fucking weird.
I was like, I feel like an alien's gonna burst out of my abdomen. And now all I want to read is like mother horror. But I'm like, yes, everybody talk to me about this.
What's that movie that Jennifer Lawrence did where she's kind of like a horror movie? Is Mother, right?
Mother. Right?
Yeah,
Mother.
With an exclamation point.
With an exclamation point.
Mother.
So tell us what The Exorcist
is about, because no one's ever heard of this. Even I, a devout religious person, and for most of my life, knows exactly what The Exorcist is about.
So then say it.
My God,
it's about an exorcism.
So aggro.
Can Kelsey argue that?
So, The Exorcist, if you don't know, or maybe you know of The Exorcist, but have never read it, or I've never seen the movie, or just kind of know of it as a famous thing.
I can't look.
It's about a divorced mother who lives in Washington, D.C.
She goes on a reality show.
She goes on a reality show. No, and she has a daughter named Reagan who suddenly starts acting strangely, and it turns out that she is possessed by a demon, and so a priest has to come and give her an exorcism. Essentially, the setup is simple. I've never read the book. Obviously, I've seen the movie a bunch of times. One of the best horror movies ever made.
The old version?
Yeah, the one called The Exorcist.
What was the one that came out recently?
Exorcist.
There's so many.
Believer is the one that came out recently.
Yeah, and it was very bad, right?
Was spooky.
I heard it was bad.
No, it did well. Didn't it do well?
Terribly.
It did yeah, I remember it just hearing it was really bad.
Oh, I've only seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
That's not an extra. That's not in this franchise, though.
I thought it was.
No.
I mean, there's not just like.
Anyways, I watched it under a blanket.
There's lots of. That's a good movie, but there's a lot of exorcism movies.
Kelsey, you and I are going to go on a trip on this book.
But The Exorcist, is the 1970. I don't know what year it came out.
Yeah,
I literally thought King wrote this.
No. This is pre-King. Really.
This is
fame.
before his King days.
This is pre-King. William Friedkin directed the movie in the 70s. Obviously, one of the most influential and honestly successful movies of all time. There's been a couple of sequels: Exorcist 2 and Exorcist 3.
Didn't they all die?
What?
The actors? Didn't some spooky stuff happen?
No, that's Poltergeist. A lot of the actors died who were in the movie Poltergeist. That's a whole thing.
No, but there was
definitely
something
atheist.
that happened on the Exorcist.
Well, there's a lot of
Exorcist
famous things.
that-
The director was apparently very intense, but I mean, all the main actors were.
Yeah, they were on an archaeological site.
Well, yes, that's true. But that guy. Anyway, we don't talk about the movie right
Fire
now.
broke out on set. Oh yeah, we'll talk about this later.
Can we
We'll talk about
not?
this later.
I don't want to. No, let's just not talk about that stuff. If you want to read this book, I am moving
You and I are
forward.
gonna go on a trip.
Yeah, I'm moving
Of
forward with my
religious.
own ideas about religion, and I don't need Kelsey being like, "Did you know that in the Poltergeist, all the actors died horrible deaths?" It is going to set me back 15 years.
Because you know what it is with me.
I'm literally going to talk
I
about
can't
Jesus to
watch
both of
them.
you.
Yeah, I can't watch them, but I'm fascinated by like the plot, so I'll read the whole plots of everything.
So neither of you have seen this movie?
No,
Nope.
I only watched Exorcism. of
I know
Emily Rose.
Justin's never seen it. You've
Yeah.
never seen this movie?
No, and no, because I have religious trauma.
Okay. All right.
You picked a good one, Bobby.
I'm
Kelsey and I
very
are-
excited.
Kelsey and I are going to be like,
You know,
what
I'm
the fuck?
so excited.
I
My
need
mo- my- you know how many
Jesus.
times my mom, we had a priest come into our apartment that I still think is haunted to this day, my dad's apartment. And we had a priest once come in and with the holy water. And there was another time where like I woke up in the middle of the night and went to go tell my mom like I heard something. And then she came and she put like the cross of the
Okay, I didn't know any of this. This makes it even better that I picked this one.
Oh,
And
I
then
have.
recently-
It's not.
recently my dad said recently he's like I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one time that I felt something tap my back in the bathroom and I ran out of the bathroom screaming and you laughed at me. And my dad was like, oh yeah, he's like, that happened to me recently. What?
See, I'm already tearing up. I don't want to do this. Let's just we'll just read the damn goddamn book.
We're gonna read this goddamn book, and then I hope.
I'm gonna rate it 5-star. If it makes me cry,
Well, Justin, after we read the book, if we can one night, we should get together and watch the movie.
All right, fine.
thank God.
together.
fine.
I don't have to be there.
Ange can't be here because she'll be like,
Oh, I know.
can't-
Trust me.
I can't do this.
Anne showed the trailer for Haunting in Venice, the Perot movie, and was like the mustache.
She was like,
man movie.
absolutely not.
I
I'm
was
like,
like,
but it's a
no.
murder mystery.
It's a goofy murder mystery. Anyway, so The Exorcist, we're gonna do that. We'll talk about that in November. I'm really excited. I've wanted to read this for a while. It's been in. I bought it months ago, and it's just been sitting there, kind
Oh
of
my
like
God.
in my to read list. So I'm very
I'm
excited to
excited.
read it.
I'm excited,
Um,
but I'm not gonna sleep for ever.
I hope it's really scary. I really am hoping I get really scared by it.
I'm hoping that the language that it's written in gives me like a wall. It's like when I read like Edgar Allan Poe. Like sometimes I'm not understanding what's happening,
Oh no, it's not.
and
like
then
that
it'll
at
be
all.
like,
It's
and a
very
body
modern.
hung from the ceiling, and I'm like,
It's very modern feeling, Kelsey. It's very modern feeling. It was written in 1971. It wasn't written in
I
1940
know, but like
or
you know,
1930.
sometimes there's like a distance.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna feel that here. It feels very modern. Anyway, so we're gonna do The Exorcist. I'm very excited.
I will not be reading it at my dad's house. That's for sure. And I'm
I
not gonna
will.
tell him because he's gonna come and bring some story that he's like, yeah, the other day I felt someone watching me.
Like, Dad, it was me. I was in the living room looking at you.
No, he lives alone.
No, trust me. I don't want to get it. No, we're just not
He
doing
lives
this.
alone, and he'll be like,
We're not
"Dad,"
doing this. I need
he's
to
like,
sleep
remember when
tonight.
you were little? Okay, anyways, whatever. The reason we had our house blessed was because I used to say I thought someone was watching me. And then he's all casually like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I've been feeling that lately.
You guys get to meet Mr. Friendly.
Stop it.
My imaginary friend when I was younger was named Mrs. Giggles.
That's
I never had an
That's
imaginary friend.
Fucking terrifying. Can
That's
you
so
imagine your
scary.
kids coming up to you and telling you, oh my God, my best friend in this house is named Mrs. Giggles? That means I heard her laughing.
Yeah, no.
And my parents were just
This might
chill
be
about
my
it.
last book club. I might quit before we do this.
I ran it by you, Justin.
I know,
I
but
gave
now
you a chance
Kelsey's
to say
talking. Kelsey's
no.
talking about fucking Mrs. Giggles, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm not ready
Now
for
listen,
this.
Was I
gave you
did
a
have
chance
a
to say
very
no.
active imagination. However, did I really? We'll never know.
We'll never know. You know what? I'll just ask John Krasinski to tell your life movie.
What?
Like if
Oh, if.
Yeah,
Oh,
if.
if.
That was a bad joke. I'm sorry. My apologies. Also, Mazel Tov to Kelsey.
for what?
Why?
Didn't you have a big life changing experience since the last time we podcasted?
My engagement?
Yes, that's
Oh, thank
Oh.
you.
the first time I'm talking to you since then. Mazel
Yes,
Tov.
thank you.
I honestly
Now we
already
will no
thought you were
longer live in sin.
engaged. I thought you were
Oh.
engaged already.
No, Kelsey wasn't engaged.
I was
Brain,
very
you weren't-
happy
you-
to have a bastard.
I mean,
now
technically,
he'll
if you're
be
not
legal.
married by the time.
I
You
know, but he'll be
still-
my
Yeah.
legal heir.
But by the next time we podcast, I'm wondering what earth shattering
I'm a
change
very-
you're gonna have. Like, guys, I'm also a grandparent.
Yeah, my son came out with a baby.
Although looking at your partner, it would not shock me if he came out just like completely chill. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I just
We talk about this
You
all
know.
the time. Like we're like the other day we were sitting on the couch and I'm like, can you imagine like in a couple of months, like we're just gonna have like another being that's
It's-
chilling with us on the
it's
couch.
crazy. It's crazy.
you have like DoorDash or Uber Eats come, and the baby will be like, "Hey, you fine?"
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't be
Mhm.
surprised. I mean, I want to raise him a bit better, you know. I don't want another Tony Soprano in the house. You know?
Oh man.
Okay, I need to go because I woke up at 5:30 this morning.
I need to go because my team is 3 outs away from advancing in the playoffs.
Okay. Who? The Mets?
Yeah,
They're
I've
winning?
been. They were losing 2-0 until their biggest hitter, who's been in the biggest slump, slugged a 3-run homer in the top of the 9th inning.
This is
To
when you sound really American to me.
This is talking
A
about
homer?
baseball.
A
Yeah, home
homer.
run.
a home run, Kelsey.
Oh.
It's not like you lived. You had
Yeah.
that fucking Expos in your backyard
Yeah,
your
but
entire
they're
life.
not here anymore for obvious
Yeah, but
reasons because none of
they.
us went
Yes.
to the games.
You're getting it. You're going to get another team there,
I
100%.
know then it would be fun, but I like watching baseball.
Game's
when I'm
over,
at
Justin.
Baseball.
Did they win? Please tell me they won.
They won.
Dude, I'm so fucking pumped.
Okay, we need to go because you just dabbed. Thank you,
That
Bobby.
was a Bobby
Thank
and
you,
me thing
Kelsey.
for a long time.
I can't. Goodbye.
Wait.
Goodbye, Justin.
Can we get up and start flossing?
Goodbye, Bobby. No, Kelsey. Bobby said
Yes, Bobby, say goodbye to you.
no. Bobby said goodbye to
Oh,
you.
goodbye, you.
Okay.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Okay, goodbye.